Hey, welcome to the Gate to Babylon, the Gate to Everything. Greetings, I'm Ali. Welcome to the channel. Today we are making a reply and a prediction to to Alternate History Hub. The video title, the last video so far, what if Muslims kept Spain, about the Andalus, or the Iberian Peninsula, Spain and Portugal. What if the Muslims kept it? What if Reconquista failed and continued to be part of a Muslim-controlled government, and it will gradually become like Turkey today, for example. This video is supposed to have in the near future a second video, part 2, as Cody laid out in the end of the video. So we tried to predict how the second part would play out. In this video we would like to add more information, more details, especially those informations that which not really that much known, and those intricate details here and there hopefully will give ideas to Cody from Alternate History Hub to second part, and of course add my opinion and in this alternate history scenario and how it would go, and have a little bit of alternate history discussion to hopefully understand the importance of Muslim Spain, as well as Spain and the Iberian Peninsula altogether, to the history of the world since the Reconquista concluded, and to see how important the Reconquista was and how that affects the world history, and how history is very important, as all alternate history scenarios, the main goal of them are. So, without further ado, let's get into it. What Spain and Portugal did, finding the New World, would have been done by the Muslim, which Cody agrees with. It's eventually somebody's gonna find the New World. However, there's a fact that a lot of people forget and other people don't know. Most people don't know that. The Spanish themselves, they got the idea from the Muslim map. Even the Portuguese idea of crossing through South Africa, so going south to Africa, like I'm not saying the country South Africa, to actually South Africa, which is also the country South Africa, like to cross through Africa, that's the Muslims did that first as well. They got the idea from the Muslims themselves too. But the idea of Christopher Columbus itself, like going to the New World, came from the Muslims, came from specifically the Muslims in the Iberian Peninsula, from the Andalus, from Muslim Spain. They got the idea from Muslim maps. I will show you a screenshot. I will put stuff in the edit, and I'll put all the links. I have a lot of links, like resources to go back to. I'll put them in the description for this matter. Of course, check the description. There is a lot of more stuff that I would be putting in the description. I'll put the resources in the description. Of course, wherever I put in the description, but I mean, check the description. So they got the idea from Muslim maps. Christopher Columbus, unlike proper story, like the most famous story, he knew about the New World by the Muslim maps and essays left behind. Because there's a lot of stuff that Muslims left behind about the New World, from Karnataka itself, in the Red Palace and its own library. There was maps about the New World and essays. There wasn't 100% like accurate. There wasn't all the information he needed, but he knew there's a continent or an island or something big there, kind of a new world. So basically, Muslim Spain would be a second Ottoman Empire Sultanate, sort of speak. It would control the New World without any competition. North Africa, from Tunisia to Morocco. Maybe the Malay Empire, very likely. More of the African coast, maybe. The Mediterranean French coastline, maybe. And Genova, Sicily, and Nepal, they are debatable, maybe. Maybe all as well English/British British Isles and Iceland. England and Nepal is is a maybe. It's a possibility. In terms of England, it can be done early on instead of going deep into France, as England is much weaker with less size militarily. If I'm talking about William the Conqueror, can deal with 10,000, the Muslim could easily deal with 50,000. So I'm talking about the Battle of Tours, and instead of like going to France, they could easily go to the British Isles, like early on. Talking about 752, I think, 752, the Battle of Tours, 10th of October, I guess. Yeah, 10th of October. Instead of going to France, you could much easier target is the British Isles at the time. If the William Conqueror can deal with 10,000, 50,000 would easily do that task. Like, if anybody was commanding the army, with 50,000 would take the British Isles, or at least just England, then will expand, and it will expand, like, who knows. In terms of the Battle of Tours, France itself, for the most part, except for Charles Martel as a good commander, also Charles Martel didn't do that much. There was also bad luck, or good luck for the French on their own side as well, involved in the battle. Of course, luck doesn't involve in every battle. There's a little bit of luck as well. But the French were lucky with Charles Martel. Like, even the French themselves, they not really that much of a difficulty for the most part. Like, the Battle of Tours is very close to Paris. All the battles, all the fighting before that was super easy for the Umayyad, like, Arabian Peninsula Umayyad, different Umayyad. By that time there was the Passid, so different Umayyad caliphate there. Kind of caliphate, it's a sultanate, but anyway, it's not really that difficult for them, for the most part, all the way up to Battle of Tours, all the stuff that happened before Battle of Tours. So I'm talking about the entirety, like almost 2/3 of France. It was easy, like it's walking to the park. It was done very quickly as well. So they were thinking that, this is also easy, but then Charles Martel Battle of Tours happened out of the blue. Of course, themselves did a lot of mistakes in the battle. So they were thinking they would do this because France itself is more variable. It has more value, because anyway, these areas of Western Europe has almost no value. Even when the Mongols came, they didn't bother going to, the Holy Roman Empire. And of course, this is a lot later, not a bit, centuries later. But like Western Europe doesn't have really that much value. And so yeah. However, because it is much, much easier, the British Isles are so easy, especially England. England is the strongest of the British Isles, but it's easy. Like, if you just focus on England, it's easy as. Like, as I said, if William the Conqueror can do it 10,000, 50,000 would do it. Like, in fact, I'm pretty sure that England would surrender after, like, skirmishes. It will surrender. Like, the English would be more than five times outnumbered. At least 5 times. They will surrender most likely. There's no comparison whatsoever. It is so much easier, and it is overall so much easy it is that it becomes variable. Like, you're not gonna get that much from taking England, but it has a lot of strategic depth to it. And generally they would benefit from it in the long run, even like in a decade time, like even short long run, kind of like middle ground. You know what I mean? It's so easy that, like, you're not gonna lose that much. You're not gonna spend that much to take it. It's easy. But however, they saw it too easy, too unvariable, that they tried to go for France. And for the most part, 99.99% of the time it worked. It's just that battle didn't work. The Battle of Tours, when Charles Martel came to the picture. The reason I said the Mediterranean coast of France is because, generally speaking, going up to Paris is a bit stupid. Like, for all general purposes, it's stupid. Like, the Muslim army wasn't prepared properly anyway to begin with. It was a trip. For them, it was a trip for the most part, until of course, again, until the Battle of Tours. But like, going north is stupid. Like, why would you go all the way to Paris? they should have sticked with the coast of France. Just, south of France. That's all. That's all they need. Just the Mediterranean coast of France, which is extremely variable. That's basically the most variable thing. So why will you go north to Paris? Of course, they wanted to take down the Frank, but there's no need. There's no need to take any risk. They didn't find there's risk because everything was easy, but there's no need for it. You just take the south of France. So that's what I'm thinking is they could take the Mediterranean coast of France. If they took England, they could take Britannia. Maybe. That one is maybe because it's a bit tough there. England is much easier, much easier, especially where there's no Charles Martel there in England. Also, at the time, there wasn't William the Conqueror or something. William the Conqueror, I think, is, if I'm not mistaken, is the grandson of Charles Martel, or the son. I think he's the grandson of Charles Martel. So there is no William the Conqueror or any notable particular general or king to be aware of in England at the time. So it would be far much easier than walking to the park. And it would be even easier that it is possibly they would surrender because they will be significantly outnumbered and outpowered. And from there it could expand a little bit towards, possibly Naples and Sicily after they take North Africa, like from Tunisia, or from modern day Tunisia to Morocco. Those are possibly, and possibly, as I said a bit before, they could take Mali, the gold mine there. And from there it could go to the Vikings and to the Norse as well. And perhaps in such a situation, the Viking age will end very quickly, or it would be extremely restricted and the Vikings would not be as big of a deal as it is in our timeline in reality. There's a possibility for that the Holy Roman Empire will get hammered by the Vikings instead of rest of Europe. But even though it will be less than, otherwise not like the Viking gonna be concentrated there, like there will be losses in the Vikings, there will be less Viking, but it possibly will be concentrated on the Holy Roman Empire, and possibly that will lead to Denmark being bigger, taking more section out of Germany. Definitely there will be far more confrontation with the Vikings and far more battles with the Vikings than in reality. I mean, in our timeline. As I said a bit before, it would be basically a second Ottoman Empire to Europe. Europe would be screwed. That would change history a lot far more than anybody can comprehend. In such situation, most likely there wouldn't be crusades, and if there would be a crusade, there would be extremely defensive and against Muslim Spain. Meant by no crusade to the Holy Land. There will be other crusades. And even in our timeline, not all crusades are about the Holy Land. There's the Northern Crusade, which might take place. Or it would take place later, like in a different year, like forward year, it would be like late. The Muslim army in their fight through Francia, the Franks, or Western Frank, I think the Franks not yet Western and Eastern. For the Franks, they weren't really fully serious and committed. But the army wasn't really that well supplied. Like, still comparison to the European, they are outmatched in that regard. But it wasn't as good as it could have been. They kind of give it a chance. Plus, they didn't think there would be something as big going on as the Battle of Tours. The formation of such force of maximum 15,000 Franks soldiers and knights in the Battle of Tours was itself surprising, especially after many thousands have been taken down as 2/3 of France has fallen and cut through. Anyway, the entire thing going north to Paris, in my opinion, is stupid. They should have just, strategically wise, they should have just sticked with taking a bit of the south and make sure you have a control of the coastline of the Mediterranean Sea. That's all you need. Anyway, they should have focused first on Asturias in the north instead of going behind across the mountains to France. They should have focused on that first. Like anybody who knows strategy knows that. Of course, they themselves knows that, but they kind of like said, this is like too difficult because of geography. France is much easier. For the most part, they were, but in the last minute and the last 1% download, it screwed up. You know, like when it's more or less like, you know, the meme. Kind of, you know, when you're downloading something, especially back in the days, or you're downloading something itchy, and everything goes well, and then it got stuck for 1 hour when it is 99%, and then it says download failed after you've been trying to download for 7 hours. That basically Battle of Tours. Everything all the way up to the Battle of Tours was easy, and thousands of French soldiers have been taken down as they go through France from the south to the north towards Paris. It wasn't like the French were concentrating their power. It wasn't. They already like lost the war, and they like won it in the last second in the Battle of Tours. They weren't like concentrating the power and let the Muslims take it to trick them. They actually lost 2/3 of France. But in the last minute, they won it. And they were lucky, like extremely lucky. There was a lot of luck involved. Of course, equally, the Muslims had bad luck in that battle. We should leave Battle of Tours to a different video. So let's move on. For this to happen, you have to kill the Reconquista from the beginning, and to do that, you have to take down Asturias in the northwest. First, we need to understand that Asturias itself is not part of the Visigoths kingdom. When the Muslims came to Spain, to the Visigoths kingdom, it was a separate kingdom, and then some of the Visigoths nobility ran there for with some of their money to Asturias. It wasn't Asturias, was several kingdoms there. Even the Romans couldn't take it. It's because it is mountainous, because of geographic reasons of mountains and all that related to it. There wasn't roads or that much. It was difficult, basically. They moved there, and they just kind of, in just a couple years, they changed the political climate of the area and united different tribes and tiny kingdoms together, and then they formed Asturias. The area of Asturias wasn't even Christian to begin with, but when some of the nobility moved there, they reunited the area and changed its political climate. Most of the Reconquista and all the fighting force before the Reconquista was officially announced before the Crusades. All the Christian powers in Asturias, and later on some part of Asturias broke up or changed. You have Leon and stuff like that came after. All these powers, even during the Conquista area of Aragon and Castile, all these powers, it was all about nobles taking back the areas they used to have. Like, religion is secondary, really, like from the inside. People just shout religion stuff, rhetoric and stuff, but from the inside, it's all about the money those nobles and land they lost, where the Muslims kicked the nobles, defeated them, the nobles of the Visigoths. I'm pronouncing it a bit wrong, but the Visigoths out when they came to Spain. So it wasn't about the general public. This is like nobility type of thing. Before going to France and going to England, they should take down Asturias. That's general, like, common sense. So just look at the map and you say, yeah, I need to do that first. Like, now let's get to the alternate history case directly. So for this to happen, the Reconquista have to fail, and for the Reconquista to fail, you have to kill it from the beginning. Asturias could easily have been killed from the beginning, from the get-go. Here it goes. This is how. This is like, we're gonna start talking about the certain facts and information that most people don't know about. Alright, in the right at the beginning of the story, where the Muslims crossed the Gibraltar, which is named after the general Tariq bin Ziyad, Tariq son of Ziyad, with his 12,000s across this area through Gibraltar to the Visigoths. and fought them down. The Muslims crossed the area mainly because of a request of one of the nobles. I think Frederick was the king at the time of the Visigoths. However, this particular king at the time was actually made a coup on the actual dynasty, like the actual family of the kingdom, and he threw the king and bought himself as a king. And he was basically just, destroying the entire country, not really thinking about anything, it's not doing a proper king job, and basically wasting money, all that stuff, and doing all the bad things. It was really bad. And one of the nobles, which his daughter got raped, sent a message to the Muslims and request them coming across the mountain, across the Gibraltar, and take down this bad king. Some people will say this is not 100% confirmed story. It is, undoubtedly, but just something that we need to say. There's other stuff as well, which we'll leave it for a different video. However, there is no deny that he was a bad king and nobody was happy about him, as well as he's the one that changed the country from being Arisian or Unitarian Christians to Catholic, and started to oppose the population and impose Catholicism on them. And Unitarians, Arisians are basically, they share a lot of the core theological beliefs similar a lot to Islam. That's how a lot of them became Muslims, but a lot of them as well didn't become Muslim. But this is part of the thing made it easier and quicker. The area wasn't stable at all, and it became much better shape with the Muslim hands, because the Muslims at the time were superpower on the entire world stage. Western didn't rise yet. However, that was a bit of context. However, the most important part there actually is the leader, Tariq bin Ziyad and Osama bin Nusayr. These two are the best of the best generals of the era, and amongst the best in the history of Islam, and amongst the best in the entire history of the world. And especially in the ancient world before guns. They are the best of the best, amongst the best. After Khalid ibn Walid and all the top generals in the beginning of the first caliphate, these are the best of the best, and the best that ever led armies, best commanders and generals in the entire Umayyad history. Especially Osama bin Nusayr, but Tariq bin Ziyad as well. And these two duos, they were super powerful together and super smart. They had an excellent teamwork. They are top-notch generals. In terms of being generals, I can easily compare each one of them to Napoleon. Easily comparable to Napoleon, if not better. At least equal comparable. Each one of them, not together even. Alright, what that has to do with our scenario or about the alternate history? Well, there's something that happened that we don't know about. Okay, most people don't know about. The thing is, at the time, the Umayyad were kind of in decline. Not actual decline, but there's a lot of people that started to, the public, a lot of particular public areas and stuff, particular groups started to rise a little bit, intelligent type of thing. And there's a lot of underground competition going on, and a lot of different hidden deeper state governments getting to form. This is at the beginning of the Abbasid coming, but before that, there's stuff going on in Morocco itself, and that's how later on Morocco breaks out of the Umayyad control. There was after these two have been killed, there was a tension between the Arabs and the people of North Africa. Oh my God, I forgot the name. So that's going on. Especially Tariq bin Ziyad was a Amazigh, a Berber. He was a Berber, and he was fixing this competition type of thing. But after his death, stuff started to change. But anyway, there was a lot of competition there, the Caliph, or I wouldn't say Caliph, the only caliphs are the first caliphate. All the powers after that, they're not really caliphate, it's just a sultanate. But anyway, they proclaim they are caliphs. So the government in Damascus was a lot of afraid of tiny stuff that going on. One of these things that were afraid, the Sultan was afraid of the Caliph, is these two generals, because of their success, because of their fame, because of their character, because of their influence, because they are top-notch generals, and they are the they not only the commanders of North Africa and Iberia. North Africa is like from the borders of Egypt all the way to Morocco. However, they are as well Osama bin Nusayr, he's like almost like, so to speak, just a little under the Minister of Defense, the Minister of the Military. He was like almost the commander of the entire military of the Umayyad Caliphate, if he wanted to, but he was for the most part focusing on North Africa and later on Iberia as well. And both Osama bin Nusayr and Tariq bin Ziyad quickly made a quick job of the Iberian Peninsula and made it look really easy. So what happened is the Caliph got scared from them. There was nothing actually to be scared of. Like, they didn't have ambition and stuff to overthrow the Caliph or something like that, or the Sultan. But the Caliph, like a lot of Umayyad Caliphs, were jerks, or sultans. Most of them were jerks. So he killed them, he assassinated them, and we don't know a lot about that because it was a secret assassination. We don't know where their bodies are, where they died. They just disappeared from history out of nowhere. Like, just read about the history of the Umayyad, and then you reach with Tariq bin Ziyad and Osama bin Nusayr, and somehow they disappear from the history books because they got assassinated by the Caliph of the time because he was scared of them. The reason that he made the Caliph super scared of them, that he thought he needs to kill them, is because they had plans of reaching Constantinople from the other side through Spain. Like, they had planned to go through South France, Genova, North Italy, through the Baltics, all the way to attack Constantinople from the other side. They had planned to go through that. And recording to how they quickly made a job, quickly took down the Iberian Peninsula, and how they did it, how efficiently they did it, and with a tiny force in comparison, like with less significant force, a number of soldiers, there was like elite but lower number. They could have sent in more, but Osama bin Nusayr didn't send a lot with Tariq bin Ziyad, and they did all of that, and with the resources of the Iberian Peninsula, and with more support from North Africa, and going serious this time, and recording to how smart these two together, and this time they will work closely together, and the top-notch generals, the best of the time and amongst the best in the history. They are absolutely the best of their time. Like, even the people that comes after them, right after them in rank, they're nothing in comparison to these two at the time. And remember, this is like before Charles Martel, before, like, there's no any significant enough names and particular generals and tacticians that can do anything to these two. So they had plans, they had actual plans and tactics of how to take down North Italy, south of France, France coast of the Mediterranean coast of France, a lot of the Baltics, and attack Constantinople from the other side. With, of course, in the plan, another army will come from northern Syria and attack Constantinople from the south, and basically, surround it completely and cut her off. That was their grand plan. Basically, just summarizing it as quick as possible. Because of that, and because of how the Umayyad, they're not into expansion, as well as because of how, like, the Caliph saw that these are too powerful, too dangerous, and because of their ambitions, the Caliph decided to assassinate them, and they just disappeared from the history books after that. And that's, in my opinion, the main reason why Morocco broke off, and that's why how the North Africa, they lose a lot of control of North Africa, and that's how the Abbasids get to power. If Osama bin Nusayr and Tariq bin Ziyad are alive, there will be no uprising in Morocco. The Abbasids wouldn't be that popular, and even if they try to take the caliphate, or the Muslim power of the time, if they try to attack Damascus, Musa bin Nusayr or Tariq bin Ziyad, or one of them, would easily wipe the floor with the Abbasid and basically wipe them out before they even start. If they stayed alive, it would be very easy for them. There wouldn't be Abbasids. According to how good these two, I reckon that if they stayed alive longer, they would first and foremost take down Asturias, and I think they would definitely do it, especially when both of them like worked simultaneously on it. They would definitely do it. In my opinion, it would still be difficult, but I think they will succeed in it if they stayed alive longer. That is how Asturias and the Reconquista will be finished from the get-go, and that's how it will fail, and that's how this alternate history, I think, will work out most likely. There's a high possibility that a lot of the Vikings, or at least half, if not more, would become Muslims eventually, similar to how the Vikings eventually became Christians. So I think in this alternate history, especially if the Muslims go to England instead of to Paris, to London and to England, as we explained it's easier. There's a high possibility that also Islam will interfere with the Vikings directly in a religious sense, and a lot of them will become Muslims, and they would so that dynamic would play out. Just a little bit to come back to the Battle of Tools, just a little bit. It says over here in Wikipedia that in terms of the strength of the numbers of the soldiers, it says that the Muslims 25,000. No, there were 50,000. It could have been far more than that, like 100 possibly, but because they didn't care that much, they weren't fully committed. And it says that the Christians were, Charles Martel army, and the Duke of Aquitania, Odo, was 15. Basically, the most unpopular Charles Martel. 15,000, 20,000. In my opinion, maximum 15,000, because you remember, like, thousands have already got captured and died to fight for in most of France, and that's basically the remaining. So I wouldn't, like, maybe a little bit more than 15,000, but no way 20,000. 20,000 is a whole lot. It's literally as big as all the soldiers that fought against each other in the battle of Battle of Hastings. That William the Conqueror won. 10,000 from the William Conqueror side, roughly, and 10,000 from England. That there's no way France, after it lost 2/3 of the land, like all the land that underneath of Paris, and lost thousands of soldiers defending these lands, and various lords lost their lives, and various lords, units, and knights have already fought and taken down. There's no way 20,000. Maximum, I would say 15,000, in my opinion. The Muslims definitely 50,000. The dynamics in Europe would be a whole lot different, especially if they expanded a little bit, to the Mediterranean coast of France, to England, and possibly to Sicily and Nepal. The Western Mediterranean and the dynamics in Europe will be a whole lot different. That's totally unpredictable.